Victoria's hand struck a daisy's back. The maid plunged into murky water. Her white uniform billowed like a surrender flag. Below, shadows darted, piranhas bred for sport. Victoria adjusted her diamond bracelet. Servants who forget their place swim with the fish. She turned to the gardener. "Clean this before my husband returns." Then she walked away humming. Have you ever been punished for something you never did, while the guilty watched? This is one of those African stories that will grip you. Among life stories shared here, few cut deeper. Touching stories like this remind us justice always surfaces. In real-life stories, truth refuses burial. Victoria didn't know. The woman sinking in that lake would soon have her on her knees begging for mercy. 3 months earlier, a daisy stood at the iron gates of the Okonkwo estate. The mansion sprawled across the Lagos hillside like a sleeping giant. White marble columns, manicured gardens, a lake glittering in the afternoon sun. She clutched her only possession, a worn gold locket containing a faded photograph. Her mother holding a baby. The only proof a daisy existed before the orphanage. She wore a simple white dress, clean but frayed at the hem. 28 years old, and everything she owned fit in one bag. The head housekeeper, Mama Ngozi, met her at the servants' entrance. 67 years old, with kind eyes and calloused hands. "You're the girl from the agency?" "Yes, Ma, a daisy." Mama Ngozi studied her face for a long moment. Something flickered in her expression, recognition, perhaps, but it passed. "You'll do. Follow me." The household employed 12 staff members, cooks, gardeners, drivers, maids. They moved through the mansion like ghosts, seen only when needed, invisible otherwise. Chief Marcus Okonkwo owned the estate. 62 years old, petroleum money. His company supplied fuel to half of West Africa. Forbes listed his net worth at 89 billion naira. But Chief Marcus traveled constantly. The person who actually ran the household was his wife, Victoria Okonkwo. She appeared on the terrace as Mama Ngozi led a daisy through orientation. 45 years old, designer dress, Hermes bag, nails painted the color of blood. Victoria looked a daisy up and down like inspecting livestock. Another mouth to feed. She didn't hide her disdain. "Don't steal the silverware." "Yes, Ma," a daisy said. She kept her eyes down. Victoria turned to Mama Ngozi. "She starts at the lowest wage, probation for 6 months." Then she walked away, heels clicking against marble. A daisy learned quickly. Victoria Okonkwo had 2 faces. The public face appeared in newspapers and magazines. Chairwoman of the Lagos Women's Empowerment Foundation, philanthropist, champion of the poor. Photographs showed her donating to orphanages, cutting ribbons at schools, embracing crying mothers. The private face emerged behind closed doors. Victoria withheld staff salaries for weeks, claiming delayed bank transfers. She docked pay for minor infractions, a crooked napkin, a late breakfast tray, a smudge on her wine glass. Nigerian Labor Act Section 17 prohibited employers from withholding wages without written contract amendments. Victoria violated this law openly. She knew poor maids couldn't afford lawyers. Adeyeze also noticed Victoria's white Hermes bag. Pristine on the outside. But once, when Victoria left it open, Adeyeze glimpsed the contents. Receipts, dozens of them, all from the same place, Golden Palace Casino. Victoria had debts, large ones, and she needed Chief Marcus's money to pay them. 6 weeks into her employment, Adeyeze was cleaning Victoria's bedroom when she heard the scream. "Thief!" Victoria stood in the doorway, face twisted with rage. "My ruby earring, the one Marcus gave me for our anniversary." She pointed at Adeyeze. "You took it." "Ma, I didn't."
"Don't lie to me." Victoria grabbed Adaisy's arm and dragged her downstairs. All 12 staff members assembled in the main hall. Gardeners, cooks, drivers, everyone watched as Victoria shoved Adaisy to the center. "This girl stole from me," Victoria's voice carried through the marble chamber. "Empty your pockets." Adaisy's hands trembled as she turned out her pockets. Nothing. Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Check her apron." One of the junior maids stepped forward and patted Adaisy's apron. Her hand stopped at the front pocket. She pulled out the ruby earring. The staff gasped. Adaisy's blood turned to ice. She hadn't taken it. She hadn't even seen it before. "I didn't steal this," she said. "Someone put it there." "Of course you'd say that." Victoria snatched the earring. "Every thief claims innocence." She turned to the assembled staff. "Let this be a lesson. I will not tolerate dishonesty in my house." Then she looked at Adaisy with cold satisfaction.
"You will work 6 months without pay as restitution. If you refuse, I call the police." Victoria smiled. "Your choice." Adaisy understood. No references, no new job, and a theft charge would follow her forever. "Yes, Ma," she whispered. That night, Adaisy sat on her narrow bed in the servants' quarters. The other maids avoided her. Word spread fast. She was a thief. Untouchable. She opened her gold locket and stared at the photograph. Her mother's face. Gentle eyes. A kind smile. Chidinma, that was her name. Adaisy had learned it from the nuns at the mission in Enugu where she grew up. They told her Chidinma died when Adaisy was an infant. No other family. No records. Just the locket left with the baby at the mission door. But 6 months ago, Adaisy had found something. A newspaper clipping from 1999, 25 years old. A small article about the death of Chidinma Okonkwo, first wife of rising petroleum businessman Marcus Okonkwo.
She drowned in a boating accident at their estate. Their infant daughter died with her. Okonkwo, the same name on the locket's inscription. Adaize hadn't come to this mansion for work. She came for answers. Was Chief Marcus her father? Did her mother really drown? Why was she told the baby died when she was clearly alive? Someone in this house knew the truth. And Victoria's cruelty only confirmed it. There were secrets here worth protecting. Adaize closed the locket. She would find those secrets, whatever it took. The weeks crawled by like wounded animals. Victoria assigned Adaize to the worst tasks. Scrubbing the Piranha Lake dock every morning. The wooden planks were slippery with algae and bird droppings. Below, dark shapes circled in the murky water. Marcus's sport fish, waiting to be fed. Adaize worked on her hands and knees while Victoria watched from the terrace, sipping tea. "Missed a spot," Victoria would call down. "Start over." Adaize started over. Every time. The other staff avoided her. The theft accusation had spread through the household like poison. Only Mamangozi showed kindness, slipping extra food onto her plate, leaving clean towels outside her door. "Keep your head down," Mamangozi whispered one evening. "That woman has buried secrets deeper than the lake. Don't give her a reason to bury you too." Adaisy nodded but said nothing. She wasn't keeping her head down. She was keeping her eyes open. In her 3rd week without pay, Adaisy found the archive room. It was in the basement, a forgotten space filled with filing cabinets, old photographs, and boxes of documents. Decades of Okonkwo family history collected dust on metal shelves. Spiders had built webs in the corners. The air smelled of mold and neglect. Adaisy started searching during her breaks. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. She looked for anything about Chidinma. A marriage certificate, a death record, A photograph. Something that proved the connection between her mother and this family. On her fourth visit, she found a box labeled 1999. Inside, newspaper clippings, legal documents, and a folder marked medical records. Adaisy's hands trembled as she opened it. Chidinma Okonkwo. Death certificate. Cause of death, drowning. Signed by Dr. Emeka Nwosu, Lagos General Hospital. Date, March 15, 1999. But clipped to the certificate was a handwritten note on personal stationery. Paid in full, V.O. V.O. Victoria Okonkwo. Paid for what? A doctor doesn't get paid extra to sign a death certificate, unless the certificate was false. Adaisy photographed everything with her hidden phone. Her hands shook so badly she had to take each picture twice. "What are you doing here?" Adaisy spun around. Victoria stood in the doorway, face carved from stone. "I was cleaning, Ma."
Mama Ngozi asked me to organize. Victoria crossed the room in 3 strides and slapped Adaisy across the face. The sound cracked through the dusty air. "Liar." Her voice was quiet, dangerous. "You were snooping." Adaisy tasted blood. She didn't speak, didn't defend herself. Let Victoria see only fear. Victoria grabbed her chin, forcing eye contact. Her nails dug into Adaisy's skin. "You think you're clever? You think you'll find something?" She smiled, a cold, empty thing. "There's nothing here for you. Nothing but dust and dead paper." She released Adaisy's chin and stepped back. "Toilet duty, 1 month, and if I catch you in this room again, you'll wish you'd never been born." Victoria turned and left. Her heels echoed up the basement stairs. Adaisy stood alone in the archive room, blood on her lip, photographs saved on her phone. 1 month of toilets was a small price. Adaisy obeyed. She scrubbed toilets for 30 days. Her knees ached, her hands cracked and bled. The chemical smell burned her nostrils until she could taste it in her food. She cleaned 12 bathrooms daily. The guest bathrooms were manageable. Victoria's personal bathroom was not. Every morning, Victoria left something extra for Adaisy to clean. Hair in the drain, makeup smeared on mirrors. Once, a used sanitary pad left on the floor. Adaisy cleaned it all, without complaint, without expression. She understood what Victoria was doing, testing her, waiting for her to break, to quit, to give Victoria a reason to throw her out, or worse. Adaisy would not give her that satisfaction. But she kept the photographs. At night she studied them under her thin blanket. The death certificate, the handwritten note. Paid in full. What did Victoria pay for, and why was a doctor involved? She needed more information. She needed help. Adaisy remembered a name from her childhood at the mission. Inspector Chukwu of the Lagos State Criminal Investigation Department. He had been friends with Father Donovan, the priest who raised her. A good man, honest, one of the few police officers the mission trusted. She found his contact through the mission's records and sent him a message. "I have evidence that Victoria Okonkwo paid a doctor to falsify a death certificate in 1999. The victim was Chidinma Okonkwo. I believe I am her daughter. I need your help." 2 days passed. Adaisy checked her phone constantly. Nothing. On the 3rd day, he replied, "If what you're saying is true, this is murder. But we need more than documents. Documents can be forged, manipulated, explained away. We need a witness, someone who was there, someone who can testify to what really happened." Adaisy stared at the message. A witness? After 25 years? Where would she find someone willing to speak against Victoria Okonkwo? Victoria hosted a garden party for her foundation donors. 50 guests arrived in chauffeured cars. White tents dotted the lawn. Champagne fountains sparkled in the afternoon sun.
A string quartet played soft music. Victoria wore a cream-colored dress and smiled for photographers. Lagos society's favorite philanthropist. The woman who lifted the poor. She spotted a daisy carrying a tray of canapés and raised her hand. "You, come here." A daisy approached. "Yes, ma. Serve the guests." Victoria's voice carried across the lawn.
Then, louder, ensuring everyone heard. "On your knees." The quartet stopped playing. 50 guests turned to watch. A daisy looked at the tray, then at Victoria, then at the 50 faces, curious, uncomfortable, waiting to see what she would do. She knelt. She served canapés from her knees, moving between guests while Victoria chatted and laughed above her. Some guests shifted uncomfortably. A few whispered to each other. Most simply looked away, sipping champagne, pretending not to see. But one woman watched closely. Mrs. Adeleke, wife of Justice Adeleke of the Lagos High Court. She studied Adaisy's posture, her composure, the way she moved with quiet grace despite the humiliation. Later, Mrs. Adeleke whispered to her husband, "That girl has noble bearing. Mark my words, there's more to her than Victoria knows." Adaisy heard nothing. She simply finished her task, rose to her feet, and returned to the kitchen. She would not be broken. Not by kneeling, not by toilets, not by slaps.
She would find the truth, and the truth would speak for itself. Week 7. 2 a.m. Adaisy couldn't sleep. She walked the darkened hallways to get water from the kitchen. That's when she saw the light. Victoria's study. Door ajar. Soft lamp glow spilling into the corridor. Adaisy crept closer and peered through the crack. Victoria sat at the desk, signing documents. But something was wrong. She was copying a signature from another paper, practicing the loops and angles over and over, then signing the official document with careful precision. Chief Marcus's signature. Forged. Adaisy watched as Victoria signed 3 bank transfer authorizations. The amounts were visible from the doorway. 15 million naira, 22 million naira, 18 million naira. Millions of naira moving from Marcus's offshore accounts. Victoria looked up suddenly. Their eyes met through the crack in the door. For a long moment, neither moved. Neither breathed. Then, Victoria smiled.
"You see things you shouldn't, little maid." Her voice was silk over steel. "That's a dangerous habit." Adaisy backed away and returned to her room. Her heart pounded against her ribs. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Victoria was stealing from her own husband, forging his signature to cover her gambling debts. 55 million naira in one night alone. And now Victoria knew that Adaisy knew. Inspector Chukwu replied the next morning. "I've located Dr. Emeka Nwosu. He's retired in London now, 74 years old. But here's the interesting part. He kept records, everything. Names, dates, payments, insurance against the people who paid him." Adaisy read the message twice. "If we can get his testimony," Chukwu continued, "we can build a case. Real charges, murder, conspiracy, fraud." Adaisy typed back, "How do we get him to talk?" "We need leverage, something that proves Victoria's guilt beyond the documents you found. Something that makes Nwosu believe testifying is safer than staying silent. I'm working on it. Be careful, Adaisy. If she suspects you're building a case, she'll act first. Women like her don't leave loose ends, they bury them." Adaisy closed the phone and looked out her small window. The lake glittered in the morning sun. Peaceful, beautiful, deadly. She thought of Victoria's smile through the study door. Time was running out. Chief Marcus returned from his business trip on a Thursday. His private jet landed at Murtala Muhammad Airport at 3 p.m. By 4 p.m., his convoy pulled through the estate gates. 6 weeks abroad, meetings in Dubai, London, Singapore, billions of naira in new contracts. The staff lined up to greet him. A daisy stood at the end of the row, head bowed. Marcus walked down the line, nodding to each employee. When he reached a daisy, he stopped. His eyes locked on her gold locket. "Where did you get that?" A daisy's heart seized. "It was my mother's, sir." Marcus reached toward the locket, then stopped himself. His hand trembled slightly. "What was her name, your mother?" "Chidinma, sir." The color drained from his face. He stared at a daisy for a long moment, at her eyes, her cheekbones, the shape of her mouth. Something shifted behind his expression, recognition, or perhaps memory of something he'd buried long ago. Then he turned and walked into the mansion without another word. That night, a daisy watched from the servants' quarters as Marcus entered his private study. He stayed there for 3 hours. When he emerged, his face looked 10 years older. Victoria noticed the change in her husband. Marcus became distant, distracted. He canceled meetings, declined calls. He asked his lawyer to visit the estate, unusual, since they typically met at the corporate office. He spent hours in the archive room, searching through old boxes, old files, old memories. Victoria intercepted his assistant one morning. "What is he looking for?" The assistant hesitated. "Documents, ma, old ones, something about his first wife." Victoria's face went pale. That afternoon, she found Marcus in his study with a photograph in his hands. Chidinma on their wedding day, young, beautiful, smiling at the camera with her whole future ahead of her. "You kept this?" Victoria's voice was sharp. "I kept everything." Marcus didn't look up. "Every photograph, every letter, everything she ever gave me." "She's been dead for 25 years, Marcus. Why revisit the past now?" Marcus finally looked at his wife, really looked at her. "I don't know. Maybe because the past isn't as dead as I thought." Victoria left the study with her hands trembling. She needed to act. The maid knew about the forgery. Marcus was asking questions about Chidinma. And somewhere in London, the doctor who helped her cover the murder was still alive, with records that could destroy her. Loose ends. Too many loose ends. A daisy was cleaning Victoria's bathroom when she heard the phone call. Victoria stood on the bedroom balcony, speaking in a low, urgent voice. She didn't know the bathroom window was cracked open. She didn't know sound traveled. "The maid saw me signing the transfers. She knows about the forgery." Pause. "I don't care about the money. I care about what she might find. She's been snooping, asking questions, looking through old documents. There's something about her, something I don't like. No, I'll handle it myself. By the end of the week, she'll be gone. Permanently." Victoria ended the call. A daisy stood frozen behind the bathroom door, sponge in hand, heart hammering against her ribs. Permanently. She had 4 days. Inspector Chukwu called that evening. "I reached Dr. Nwosu in London. He's scared, terrified actually, but willing to talk, if we guarantee protection and immunity from prosecution." "What did he say?" "He confirmed it, everything." Victoria paid him 5 million naira in March 1999 to falsify 2 death certificates, one for Chidinma Okonkwo, one for her infant daughter. A daisy's legs buckled. She sat heavily on her narrow bed. Both certificates were fake? Chidinma really died, but not by accident, not drowning. Nwosu said Victoria visited Chidinma that morning with tea, special tea, laced with a sedative. While Chidinma was unconscious on the boat, Victoria pushed her into the water. She drowned without waking up. A daisy couldn't breathe. And the baby? The baby lived. Victoria told Nwosu to dispose of it, make it disappear. But Nwosu couldn't do it, couldn't kill an infant. He gave the child to a nurse who took her to a church mission in Enungu, told Victoria the baby was dead, collected his money, fled to London. Silence on the line, heavy, suffocating. "A daisy," Chukwu said gently. "That baby was you. You are Marcus Okonkwo's biological daughter, his heir. Victoria tried to kill you 25 years ago, when you were 3 months old." A daisy didn't sleep that night. She lay on her back, staring at the ceiling of her tiny room, processing the enormity of the truth. Her mother was murdered. She was supposed to die with her. Victoria had stolen her life, her inheritance, her father, her name. 25 years of her life erased, replaced with an orphanage, a false history, a gold locket she didn't understand. And now Victoria planned to finish what she started. A days could run, take her evidence to Inspector Chukwu and disappear. Let the police build a case over months, maybe years. Hide until it was safe. But cases collapsed, evidence got lost, witnesses changed stories when money changed hands. Victoria had 89 billion naira behind her. She could buy judges, she could buy time. No, if Adaze wanted justice, she needed to expose Victoria publicly, in a place where she couldn't lie her way out, in front of witnesses who mattered, journalists, socialites, judges' wives. She needed to be patient, she needed to be smart. She needed to survive 4 more days. On day 2, Victoria struck. It happened at the lake dock. A daisy was scrubbing the wooden planks as usual. The morning sun glittered on the water. A beautiful day. Below the surface, the piranhas circled lazily, dark shadows waiting for their feeding. Victoria appeared on the dock, alone, no staff, no witnesses. "Stand up." A daisy stood, set down her brush, faced her. "My diamond bracelet is missing, the one I wore to the garden party." A daisy knew what was coming. The same playbook, the same lie, the same performance Victoria had used with the ruby earring. "I didn't take it, Ma." "Of course you did, just like my earring." Victoria stepped closer. "But I'm done playing games with you, done giving you chances to learn your place." She didn't search a daisy's pockets this time. She didn't call the other staff to witness. She didn't need the theater. She simply placed both hands on a daisy's chest and pushed. A daisy hit the water hard. The cold shocked her lungs. She gasped, swallowed lake water, kicked desperately toward the surface. The piranhas came immediately, dark shapes darting through the murky water, drawn by the splash, by the thrashing. She felt the first bite on her calf, sharp, tearing, and gasped. Then another on her ankle, then a third on her thigh. A daisy didn't scream. She couldn't waste the breath. She kicked toward a submerged tree root near the dock's edge, grabbed it with both hands, pulled herself up until her head broke the surface. Blood clouded the water around her legs. The piranha swarmed below, bumping against her feet, tearing at her wounds. On the dock above, Victoria watched with her arms crossed. Servants who forget their place deserve to swim with the fish. She adjusted her bracelet, the diamond bracelet she'd claimed was stolen, right there on her wrist. "Clean this mess before my husband returns." Then she walked away humming, the same words she'd used that morning. The same casual cruelty. A daisy clung to the tree root. The bites burned like fire. Blood ran down her legs into the water, feeding the frenzy below. Her arms shook with the effort of holding herself above the surface. She was going to die here, eaten alive in a lake on her father's estate, the same lake where her mother drowned 25 years ago, history repeating itself. Then she heard footsteps, running, fast. "Madam, hold on!" Tunde, the gardener, 23 years old. He ran down the dock with a fishing net and a rope. "Grab the rope!" He threw it. A daisy caught it with bleeding hands, wrapped it around her wrist, held on. Tunde pulled her from the water and onto the dock. She lay on the wooden planks, gasping, bleeding, alive. Her legs were torn in a dozen places, but the wounds were survivable. Piranhas weren't as deadly as their reputation, unless you couldn't escape. Tunde knelt beside her, face pale with shock. "I saw everything," he whispered, "from the garden."
"I saw Madame Victoria push you. I saw her walk away." A daisy grabbed his arm. "Will you testify to that? In front of police? In front of her husband?" He hesitated. He was young. He needed this job. Victoria could destroy him. Then he nodded. "Yes, I will." Mama Ngozi cleaned a daisy's wounds in the servants' quarters. She worked silently, her old hands gentle but thorough on the torn skin. Antiseptic, stitches where needed, bandages. A prayer whispered under her breath, the same prayers she'd whispered over sick children for 40 years. When she finished, she noticed a daisy's gold locket. It had fallen open during the struggle in the water. Mama Ngozi's hands began to shake. "This photograph," her voice cracked. "This is Madame Chidinma. I would know her face anywhere. I helped dress her on her wedding day. I brushed her hair. I fastened her locket." She looked at a daisy, really looked, at her eyes, her cheekbones, the shape of her mouth. The same feature she'd seen 25 years ago on a young bride. "Show me your shoulder." A daisy pulled down her dress strap, revealing a birthmark. A small port wine stain shaped like a crescent moon. Mama Ngozi gasped. Tears spilled down her weathered face. "The baby had this mark. Chidinma's daughter. I saw it when I helped bathe her the day she was born." She clutched a daisy's hands. "You are a Daisy Okonkwo, the first daughter, the true heir. You didn't die in that lake. You survived." A daisy squeezed the old woman's hands. "I know. I came back to prove it." Mama Ngozi wept openly now. 25 years of guilt pouring out. "I was there, that night. I saw Victoria pay the doctor to take you away, to make you disappear. I heard her tell him the baby was dead. I knew it was a lie, and I said nothing. 25 years, and I kept her secret. Forgive me, child, forgive me." A daisy held her. "You were afraid. Anyone would be afraid. I was a coward. You can speak now."
That's what matters. Will you tell the truth? Will you tell my father? Mama Ngozi wiped her eyes and straightened her back. "I will. I'll tell everyone. I'll tell the world if I have to." Inspector Chukwu arrived at midnight. Adeyeze showed him her wounds, her photographs of the death certificate, and the paid-in-full note, Mama Ngozi's signed testimony. Tunde gave his statement about the push, time, location, exact words Victoria said. Chukwu listened to everything, took notes, then made a call to his contact at a private laboratory. "The DNA confirmation, we need to expedite it. I'll pay for rush processing." He turned to Adeyeze. "We'll need a sample from Chief Marcus, hair, saliva, something with his DNA." Adeyeze thought for a moment. "His bathroom, his hairbrush, he's the only one who uses it." Tunde retrieved it that night, moved like a shadow through the silent mansion, took the brush, returned without being seen. Chukwu took the samples, Adeyeze's blood, Marcus's hair, and sent them to the laboratory by courier. "Results will arrive Saturday morning," he said, "the same day as the annual Okonkwo Charity Gala." Adeyeze understood. The annual event, 200 guests, press coverage, politicians, business leaders, Lagos high society, all gathered to celebrate Victoria's philanthropy. The perfect stage. "We move at the gala," Chukwu said, "in front of everyone she's tried to impress. Let her sins be seen where she built her throne." Adaeze nodded. Saturday. 2 more days. She could survive 2 more days. Saturday arrived. The Okonkwo Charity Gala transformed the mansion into a palace of light. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above the ballroom. White roses cascaded from golden pedestals. A 10-foot ice sculpture of Victoria's Foundation logo glittered near the entrance. 200 guests filled the room. Politicians in tailored suits, businessmen with trophy wives, socialites dripping with diamonds. Journalists circled with cameras, capturing Lagos high society at its finest. Victoria stood at the center of it all. She wore a white designer gown, Valentino, custom-fitted, with a diamond choker at her throat. The color of purity, the costume of innocence. Tonight, she would receive the Philanthropist of the Year award from the Lagos Business Council. The culmination of years of careful image building. Donations, galas, magazine covers, all leading to this moment. Chief Marcus stood beside her, greeting guests. He smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. He'd been distant all week, distracted. But Victoria had no time to worry about that now. The award ceremony would begin in 1 hour. Nothing could go wrong. At 7:45 p.m., Inspector Chukwu's car pulled up to the estate gate. The guard checked his ID. Lagos State Criminal Investigation Department. Official business. "I'm expected," Chukwu said. The guard made a call. Confirmation came. The gate opened. Chukwu drove through, followed by a second car, unmarked, with 2 plainclothes officers inside. In his briefcase, DNA results, witness statements, 25 years of evidence. In 15 minutes, Victoria Okonkwo's life would end, not with a bullet, with the truth. Victoria took the stage at 8 p.m. The ballroom fell silent. 200 faces turned toward her. Cameras flashed. The Lagos Business Council chairman stood beside her, holding a crystal trophy. "Ladies and gentlemen," the chairman announced, "it is my honor to present this year's Philanthropist of the Year award to a woman who has dedicated her life to lifting others. A woman whose foundation has built schools, funded hospitals, and changed countless lives. Victoria Okonkwo." Applause filled the room. Victoria stepped to the microphone, trophy in hand, smile radiant. "Thank you. This honor belongs to all of you, the donors, the volunteers, the dreamers who believe that one person can make a difference." Together we have. The ballroom doors opened. Victoria stopped mid-sentence. Adaeze walked in. She wore a simple white dress, the same one she'd worn the day she arrived at the estate, clean but frayed at the hem. No jewelry except the gold locket at her throat. She was supposed to be dead, eaten by piranhas, cleaned up before Marcus returned. But here she was, alive, walking through the crowd like she owned the room. Victoria's smile cracked. "Security," she said into the microphone, "remove this intruder." 2 guards moved toward Adaeze. She didn't flinch. She didn't run. "I am not an intruder, Mrs. Okonkwo." Her voice carried through the silent ballroom. "I am the guest of honor." The guards hesitated. Inspector Chukwu stepped through the doors behind Adaeze, flanked by 2 officers. "Stand down," he told the guards. "This is official CID business." He walked to the front of the ballroom, credentials displayed. The crowd parted for him. Cameras swung in his direction. Victoria's face went pale. "What is the meaning of this? This is a private event." Chukwu faced the crowd. 200 witnesses, journalists, judges' wives, politicians who'd accepted her donations. 3 days ago, he announced, Mrs. Victoria Okonkwo pushed this woman into a piranha-infested lake on this estate. She left her to die. We have video evidence. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. That's absurd, Victoria said. She's a maid, a thief. I caught her stealing and she... Play the footage, Chukwu said. A technician connected to the ballroom screen system. The giant display behind Victoria flickered to life. Security camera footage. The lake dock. Time-stamped 3 days ago. The crowd watched Victoria approach Adaze, watched her speak, watched her place both hands on Adaze's chest and push, watched Adaze hit the water, thrash, bleed, watched Victoria adjust her bracelet and walk away humming. Gasps filled the ballroom. Victoria grabbed the microphone. This is doctored, fabricated. This woman broke into my home. She didn't break in, Chukwu said. She came home. Mamangozi stepped forward from the crowd. 67 years old, gray hair, trembling hands, but her voice was steady. I have worked for this family for 30 years, she said. I was there the night Victoria Okonkwo committed murder. The room went silent. 25 years ago, Chidinma Okonkwo was the first wife of Chief Marcus. She gave birth to a daughter, a healthy baby girl with a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon. Mamangozi's voice cracked but held. Victoria poisoned Chidinma's tea and pushed her from a boat on that lake. Then she paid a doctor to forge 2 death certificates, one for Chidinma, one for the baby. She pointed at Adaze. That baby did not die. She survived. She was taken to a mission in Enugu and raised as an orphan. She grew up not knowing who she was, not knowing her father was alive, not knowing she was the heir to everything Victoria stole. Mamangozi wiped her eyes. Her name is Adaze Okonkwo. And she is standing in this room. Victoria laughed, high, sharp, desperate. This is insane. A maid and a senile old woman telling fairy tales. Marcus, she turned to her husband, tell them this is ridiculous. Marcus stood frozen. His face was gray. His hands shook. Chukwu stepped forward with a document. Chief Okonkwo, I have in my hand the results of a DNA analysis. Samples were taken from you and from this woman. The test was conducted by Genetech Laboratories, an internationally accredited facility. He handed the document to Marcus. The results confirm a 99.98% probability that Adaze is your biological daughter. Marcus read the document, read it again. His legs buckled. He caught himself on a table. He looked at Adaze, at her eyes, Chidinma's eyes, at her cheekbones, at the gold locket around her neck, the same locket he'd given Chidinma on their wedding night. My daughter, he whispered, my daughter is alive. He crossed the room and embraced her. 25 years of grief and guilt poured out in that moment. He held her like he was afraid she'd disappear again. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Victoria stood alone on the stage, white gown glowing under the lights, crystal trophy still clutched in her hands. Marcus. Victoria's voice was small now, stripped of its usual command. Marcus, please, listen to me. He didn't turn around. I did it for us, for our future. Chidinma was weak. She would have ruined you, held you back. I made you what you are. Marcus finally looked at her. His face held no anger, only exhaustion, only grief. You killed my wife. You tried to kill my child. You stole 25 years of her life. His voice was quiet, calm, devastating. There is no us, Victoria. There never was. Victoria's composure shattered. She dropped from the stage, fell to her knees in front of Adese. The white Valentino gown pooled around her like a surrender flag. "Please." Tears streamed down her face, ruining her makeup, ruining her mask. "I'll give you anything, money, property, shares in the company. I'll sign everything over to you. Just tell them to stop. Tell them to let me go." Adese looked down at the woman who'd tried to kill her twice. Once as a baby, once 3 days ago. "You pushed me into a lake to die. Twice." Her voice was steady. "You murdered my mother. You stole my name, my family, my inheritance. You let me grow up as an orphan while you wore her jewelry and slept in her bed." Victoria sobbed. I'm sorry, please." "There is nothing you can give me that I haven't already reclaimed." Adese stepped back. "I don't want your money. I don't want your property. I want justice." She turned to Inspector Chukwu. "Arrest her." The officer stepped forward. "Victoria Okonkwo, you are under arrest for the murder of Chidinma Okonkwo, attempted murder of Adese Okonkwo, fraud and forgery. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say may be used against you in court." They handcuffed her. The clicks echoed through the silent ballroom. As they led her toward the door, Victoria's white Hermes bag slipped from her shoulder. It fell open on the marble floor. Receipts scattered everywhere. Golden Palace Casino. 85 million naira in gambling debts. The secret rot she'd hidden for years, now exposed for 200 witnesses to see. The cameras captured everything. The journalists had their story. Victoria had built her throne on lies, murder, and stolen identity. Now that throne was ash. The crystal trophy remained on the stage, unclaimed, unheld. Just glass shaped like success, worthless now that everyone knew the truth. The trial lasted 3 months. Victoria Okonkwo faced 4 charges: murder in the first degree, attempted murder, fraud, and forgery. The evidence was overwhelming. Security footage, DNA confirmation. Witness testimony from Mama Ngozi, Tunde, and Dr. Emeka Nwosu, extradited from London under an international warrant. Nwosu's records sealed Victoria's fate. Dates, payments, instructions, all documented. He'd kept everything for 25 years, insurance against the woman who'd paid him to help kill a mother and her child. The Lagos High Court delivered the verdict on a Tuesday morning. Guilty on all counts. Sentence: 30 years in Kirikiri maximum security prison, with no possibility of parole for 15 years. Victoria was led from the courtroom in handcuffs. She didn't cry, didn't speak. Her face was blank, the face of someone who'd finally run out of masks. Chief Marcus issued a public statement the day after sentencing. "For 25 years, I lived beside a murderer and did not see it. My greatest shame is not that I was deceived. It is that I did not look closer. I failed my first wife. I failed my daughter. I failed the staff who suffered under Victoria's cruelty while I traveled the world making money." He paused, gathering himself. "Words cannot repair what was broken, but actions can begin. Effective immediately, I am making full restitution to every employee who had wages withheld during Victoria's management. The total amount is 15 million naira, plus 10% interest. Additionally, the Okonkwo Foundation's bylaws will be rewritten. Half of all board seats must be held by people who grew up in poverty, those who understand what it means to need help, not just to give it." The press conference ended. The reforms began. The Piranha Lake was drained. It took 2 weeks to pump out the water, remove the fish, and excavate the muddy bottom. Workers found things in the sediment: old bottles, rusted tools, a woman's shoe. Chidinma's shoe, lost 25 years ago when Victoria pushed her from the boat. Marcus buried it beside his first wife's grave, a small ceremony. Just him, Adeze, and Mamangozi. The empty lakebed was filled with soil. White lilies were planted, Chidinma's favorite flower. A stone marker was placed at the center, Chidinma Okonkwo, beloved mother. The water did not win. The memorial garden opened to the public on what would have been Chidinma's 50th birthday. Over 200 people attended. Adeze made a choice. Marcus asked her to move into the mansion, take her rightful place as his daughter and heir, reclaim the rooms, the name, the life that was stolen from her. She declined. "I will take my name," she told him. "I will take my place in this family, but I will not live in that house. Too many ghosts, too many memories of things I never experienced but should have." She chose a smaller building on the estate grounds, the old servants' quarters where she'd slept as a maid. Marcus offered to demolish it and build something new. Adeze refused. "This is where I learned who I really was," she said. "I want to make it into something that helps others do the same." She converted the building into a shelter, the Chidinma Okonkwo Center for Women, a safe house for domestic abuse survivors, women escaping exploitation, girls aging out of orphanages with nowhere to go. Marcus funded the renovation. Mamangozi helped design the kitchen. Tunde built garden beds in the courtyard. The center opened 6 months after Victoria's sentencing. Its first resident was a 19-year-old maid who'd been accused of theft by her employer. The accusation was false. Adeze visited Victoria once, 1 year after the trial. Kirikiri Prison, maximum security wing. Victoria sat across the table in a gray prison uniform. No makeup, no jewelry, no Hermes bag. Her hair had gone gray at the roots. She looked 10 years older than her age. "Why are you here?" Victoria's voice was flat, empty. "Closure. For you or for me?" "For me." Adeze placed her hands on the table. The gold locket rested against her chest. Her mother's locket, finally understood. "I forgive you," Adeze said. Victoria's eyes widened. "I forgive you because the weight of what you did is too heavy for me to carry. Hating you would poison my life the way it poisoned yours. So I'm letting it go." She stood. "But I will never forget, and I will never allow you near my family again. If you write to Marcus, he won't respond. If you write to me, I won't read it. You will serve your 30 years. You will die in this place or as a very old woman with nothing. That is the consequence of what you chose." Victoria stared at her. "That's not forgiveness, that's a life sentence." "No." Adeze walked to the door. "It's mercy. Mercy with boundaries." She left without looking back. Adeze wrote in her journal that night, "They buried me in a lake, but they did not know I was a seed. I do not bloom for revenge. I bloom so that others may know seeds survive." She closed the journal and looked out her window. The memorial garden glowed in the moonlight. White lilies, her mother's stone. She was finally home. 3 years later, the Chidinma Okonkwo Center for Women had served over 400 residents. Some stayed for weeks, some for months. All left with something they didn't have when they arrived: a plan, a skill, a safe place to return to if they needed it. Adeze earned her law degree at 31. Night classes, weekend study sessions, examinations squeezed between shelter management and court advocacy. She graduated top of her class. She specialized in labor law, domestic workers' rights, the cases no one else wanted to take, maids accused of theft, nannies dismissed without pay, housekeepers exploited by employers who knew they couldn't afford lawyers. Nigerian Labor Act Section 17 became her weapon, the same law Victoria had violated without consequence. Adeze made sure there were consequences now. Marcus Okonkwo semi-retired from active business. He appointed a new CEO for his petroleum company, spent his time closer to home, closer to his daughter. His health improved once the guilt lifted. The cardiologist noticed it first: blood pressure down, stress markers reduced. "Whatever you did," the doctor told him, "keep doing it." What he did was simple. He showed up. Dinners with a daisy every Sunday. Visits to the memorial garden. Grandparent duties when the time came. Because the time did come. A daisy married Tunde, the gardener who'd pulled her from the lake, the witness who'd testified when it cost him everything. They wed in the memorial garden, surrounded by white lilies. 50 guests, no press, no cameras, just people who mattered. Mama Ngozi did not attend. She'd passed peacefully at 70, surrounded by the staff she'd trained and the people she'd loved. 300 people came to her funeral: maids, cooks, gardeners, drivers. The invisible workers she'd cared for over 40 years. A daisy named her first child after her, Ngozi Okonkwo, born with her grandmother's kind eyes and her mother's crescent moon birthmark. Victoria Okonkwo remained in Kirikiri prison. She sent one letter to Adeze, requesting visitation rights to meet her step-granddaughter. Adeze did not reply. Some doors, once closed, stay closed. On a quiet morning, 3 years after the trial, Adeze stood in the memorial garden with her daughter. Little Ngozi was 2 years old, curious about everything. She pointed at the stone marker. "What's that, Mama?" Adeze knelt beside her. "That's your grandmother, my mother. Her name was Chidinma. It means God is good." "Where is she?" "She's in the flowers, in the wind, in you." A dragonfly landed on Ngozi's hand. She giggled and watched it flex its wings. Adeze smiled. For the first time in her life, she felt completely at peace. Her mother was remembered. Her name was restored. Her daughter would grow up knowing exactly who she was and where she came from. The water did not win. "They meant it for evil," Adeze whispered, "but God meant it for good." What would you do if someone tried to bury your truth? Would you forgive them? Share in the comments a time when you stayed silent and what gave you the courage to finally speak. If this story moved you, subscribe and ring the bell. Share it with someone who needs to hear that justice is possible. Next week, we bring you another powerful tale. They made her kneel at her own wedding, then the groom revealed who she really was. This is one of the African stories that proves truth cannot be drowned. In our collection of life stories, few are as powerful as Adeze's journey, from the bottom of a piranha lake to the head of a foundation healing others. Touching stories like this remind us that forgiveness is not weakness, it is freedom. Among all the real-life stories we've shared, this one will stay with you. Seeds survive, truth surfaces, and mercy wins. But mercy always has boundaries.